Despite having a stable job working with kids and perfect credit, finding a pet-friendly rental was impossible. After months of searching, I finally found an affordable place, but there was a catch. The landlord lived on the property. At first, I tried to be understanding. Maybe she was just particular about her property. But soon the real nightmare began. One morning, as I was trying to leave for work, she cornered me. Her pupils were pinpoints from all the painkillers she was on, as she demanded to talk about my boyfriend staying over. When I explained that he only visited occasionally and never stayed longer than a day or two, she insisted that wasn't what she'd seen and demanded I pay rent for him. This was our daily life. She'd corner me for hour-long conversations, usually high on painkillers, spouting nonsense about her life and making up rules about my guests. She even bragged about how she was scamming her employer with a fake disability claim. The breaking point came when I returned from a 2-week trip home. I'd been back for barely 48 hours when she had my boyfriend removed by the police. Then came the most ridiculous part. She slid a paper under my door demanding payment for my boyfriend's rent and utilities for the past 2 weeks. When I pointed out that I was out of town and nobody was even there, she threatened me with consequences if I didn't pay. And consequences there were, but not the ones she expected. When I stood my ground, she went nuclear. First came the creepy phone call. Someone called with a poorly disguised voice asking if this was the escort service. I recognized it as her immediately. Then she called my workplace pretending to be a potential landlord checking references. She tried to sabotage my job by telling my boss that I hosted wild parties. The harassment escalated. She stomped around my porch at night, called animal control, claiming my dog was vicious, and even sent the police to my workplace claiming she found drugs in my house. I had to explain to the officers that I worked with children and that this was just harassment because I wouldn't pay her fake bills. I got a restraining order against her, but here's where it gets good. Remember that disability fraud she bragged about? Well, I had videos of her doing construction work on her property, building an entire tool shed while supposedly being wheelchair-bound. When I met with her employer's investigator, I handed over all my evidence, including dated footage of her doing heavy construction work while claiming disability. The investigator couldn't believe their luck. The case against her had been struggling until I showed up with concrete evidence. 3 months later, I got the call I'd been waiting for. She was found guilty of disability fraud. Not only did she lose her cushy teaching position, but she had to pay back years of fraudulent disability payments. She had to sell her precious property to cover the costs. Last I heard, she's renting now, probably learning what it's like to be on the other side of the landlord-tenant relationship. I hope her new landlord is everything she deserves. She never knew it was me who turned her in. With the restraining order in place, she couldn't even try to find out. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and I was happy to help. I started training in martial arts when I was pretty young, around 10 years old. My dad was an assistant instructor at our local martial arts school, and he'd been training me even before I officially joined the class. By the time I was 14, I'd been training for about 4 years, and our class had evolved from traditional martial arts into more of an MMA style. Everything was great until this really tall, skinny kid joined our class. He was probably around my age, but he towered over everyone else. At first, it wasn't a big deal, but within a week, he started showing his true colors. This kid began pushing around the smaller students, including me, cheating during warm-ups and talking trash to everyone. The instructors started noticing and gave him extra exercises as punishment, but that just showed everyone how lazy and disrespectful he really was. Then came the day everything changed. We were having class in the community hall because our instructor wanted to teach us some special rolling techniques using the stairs there. After class ended, this kid decided it would be hilarious to put on his training gloves and start punching people as hard as he could. I didn't want to get in trouble for fighting, so I tried to wait outside, but he saw me leaving and started chasing me. I ran around corners and tables, but when I got to this row of planters, I realized I couldn't outrun him. He wasn't going to stop, so I turned around, no gloves on, and threw the hardest punch I could right at his face. By some miracle, I hit him square in the nose. He went down immediately, blood everywhere. I just lost it and started yelling and crying, telling him how sick I was of him picking on me and my friends, and how tired I was of him being such a jerk to everyone. One of the instructors came running over and took us both to the main hall where my dad and the kid's mom were. As soon as his mom saw the blood, she went ballistic, screaming about who had hurt her baby and threatening to sue whoever was responsible. My dad pulled me aside to hear what happened. I explained how the kid had been going around punching everyone with his gloves on and how I tried to run away but he was too fast. I told him I didn't want to get beat up, so I hit him first. Meanwhile, the kid was telling his mom a different story. He claimed he was just playing tag with everyone, and that I had punched him simply because I didn't like him. My dad overheard this lie and stepped in. He asked the kid to confirm if that's what he really meant to say, and the kid nervously agreed. When the kid's mom demanded to know who my dad was, he introduced himself as my father and questioned why our stories were so different. The mom expressed her doubt about my version of events, which prompted my dad to do something amazing. He turned to the whole class and asked a series of questions. First, he asked everyone who got punched by the kid that day outside of practice to raise their hands. 5 people did. Then he asked how many had seen the kid bully me or anyone else. 9 people raised their hands. Finally, he asked how many were playing tag with the kid today. No one raised their hands. The kid's mom accused everyone of lying, but my dad calmly suggested she consider what a judge would think about such a conspiracy. He pointed out that she'd know more about her son's behavior if she ever stayed to watch class, and suggested she ask any instructor about it. When she dismissed this, saying she'd rather talk to other parents who stay for class, my dad invited her to pick any of the 4 parents present. She just stood there in silence. My dad then called me over and I ran to his side immediately. He gave me clear instructions about defending myself if the kid bullied me again, and told me to speak up if I saw him bullying others. He explained that doing nothing when people get bullied is the same as supporting it, and I agreed to his terms. Finally, my dad addressed the mom, warning her that she'd hear about it if her son continued bullying anyone in the class. The mom just told her son to keep pressure on his nose, saying they'd see what his father thought about this when they got home. They left after that. The kid showed up for 2 more classes. His mom actually stayed for one of them, before quitting completely. We'd see him around the neighborhood sometimes since he lived nearby, but he always avoided us like the plague. After working non-stop for 3 years at my tech company, I finally saved enough for a month-long working vacation. I needed somewhere quiet with good internet and found this beautiful beach house on Airbnb. The photos looked amazing and the reviews were decent, though now I realize they were probably fake. I booked it for 4 weeks, paying a premium rate of $4,000 since it was peak season. The host, let's call her Karen, seemed nice enough in our initial messages, but things got weird the moment I arrived. When I got there, she immediately started showing me around, making sure to emphasize that it was her beautiful home and that everything was designer and extremely expensive. I tried to reassure her that I'd be careful with everything, but she just warned me that she'd be checking in daily to make sure I was treating her property right. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. The next morning at 7 a.m., I got my first text. She was complaining about water spots I'd left on the kitchen counter after making coffee, demanding I wipe everything down immediately. Before I could respond, she sent 5 more messages about proper cleaning techniques. That afternoon, she showed up unannounced. She started berating me for not using coasters and complained about how I was folding throws on her couch. When I pointed out that I had paid to stay there and was being respectful of her property while she couldn't just barge in whenever she wanted, she got even more aggressive. She insisted it was her house and she had every right to check on it. Then she demanded I clean the windows because they were getting smudgy. I was working on an important project when she arrived, but she wouldn't leave until I cleaned the windows to her satisfaction. That's when I noticed the cameras. They were hidden in fake plants, behind books, even in the bathroom vent. The texts became constant. She would complain about everything: my typing being too loud, sitting too close to her antique lamp, not loading the dishwasher correctly, and even taking too long in the shower, specifically pointing out that my 12-minute shower was excessive. I documented everything, including photos of the hidden cameras. On day 5, things reached a breaking point when she tried to force me to prepare dinner for her and her friends. She tried to guilt trip me, saying that since I was young and healthy, the least I could do was cook for them since I was staying in her beautiful home. When I refused and reminded her that I had paid to stay there and wasn't her personal chef, she got furious and stormed out mid-sentence. She came back an hour later in a rage. She ordered me to pack my things, saying I wasn't worthy of staying there and threatening to call the police if I didn't leave within 30 minutes. When I told her that was illegal since I had paid for 4 weeks, she just screamed that she didn't care and demanded I get out. I left that night, but not before gathering all my evidence. I contacted Airbnb immediately, filed a police report about the hidden cameras, especially in the bathroom, and got a lawyer. Turns out I wasn't her first victim. 5 other guests had similar experiences but were too intimidated to report her. The lawsuit was beautiful. Not only did I get my money back, but she was ordered to pay damages for privacy violations, illegal eviction, and harassment. Airbnb permanently banned her, and the local news picked up the story. Those camera recordings she kept, they became evidence against her. The judge was particularly interested in her admitting on camera that she deliberately created fake reviews. She ended up having to sell that precious house of hers to pay all the legal fees and damages to her previous guests who joined the lawsuit. Last I heard, she's now renting a small apartment and complaining on social media about how ungrateful guests ruined her life. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying my rescheduled vacation at a lovely resort where the only messages I get are asking if I'd like more towels. I've been friends with my college roommate for over 8 years now. We weren't super close at first, but we bonded over our shared love of classic literature and astronomy. That's actually what inspired my baby's name choice. I wanted to name my daughter after my favorite constellation, Cassiopeia. When I announced my pregnancy to our friend group, everyone was thrilled. My former roommate was especially excited since she had just found out she was pregnant too, about 2 months behind me. We were both having girls, and it felt like fate that we'd be going through this journey together. Everything was fine until I shared my chosen name during a casual dinner at my place. The moment I mentioned Cassiopeia, my friend's face changed. She got really quiet, then suddenly burst into tears. I asked her if she was okay and what was wrong. She responded by telling me that I couldn't use that name, repeating herself with increasing intensity. When I asked her what she meant, she revealed that she had been planning to name her own baby Cassiopeia, claiming it matched her aura perfectly. She was literally shaking as she said this. I thought she was joking at first, but she was dead serious. She went on a long rant about how she had always felt connected to the stars, and how she had spiritually claimed the name months ago. I reminded her that she hadn't even told anyone she was thinking about this name, but she wouldn't listen. She demanded that I pick another name, saying it wasn't fair to her or her baby. When I apologized, explaining that the name meant a lot to me too, she accused me of stealing her baby's destiny and threatened to take legal action. She started showing up at every baby-related event, introducing herself as Cassiopeia's real mother. She even created social media accounts with my chosen name, posting pictures of random babies and calling them my little Cassiopeia. The final straw came during my baby shower. She showed up uninvited, wearing a fake pregnancy bump. She was barely showing at 4 months and started telling everyone that I was trying to steal her baby's identity. She had even brought a cease and desist letter that she'd apparently written herself. My sister, who's a lawyer, had finally had enough. She pulled out her phone and showed everyone the social media accounts my former friend had made, including the disturbing posts where she was pretending to already have a baby named Cassiopeia. She then told her that what she was doing could be considered harassment and stalking, and that if she didn't stop, we would be the ones taking legal action. My former friend turned pale and started crying again, but this time nobody sympathized. Several mutual friends immediately unfollowed her on social media and left our gathering with her. The next day, all the fake accounts disappeared. I had my beautiful daughter 2 months ago, and yes, her name is Cassiopeia. My former friend ended up moving to another state before having her baby. I heard through mutual friends that she named her daughter Emma and hasn't mentioned constellations or auras since. Sometimes I still can't believe this actually happened. Who gets so obsessed with a baby name that they're willing to destroy an 8-year friendship over it? But I guess some people just can't handle not getting their way. I've known this guy from college for some years now. We weren't super close, but we kept in touch through our friend group. He always tried to present himself as this successful businessman, constantly bragging about his investments and luxury lifestyle on social media. Last month, he messaged our group chat about this amazing vacation opportunity. He claimed he had a luxury timeshare in the Maldives and wanted to treat his closest friends to a week-long stay. According to him, everything was already paid for and we just needed to cover our flights. When I asked if he was sure about such a generous offer, he responded with fake humility, saying that's what friends were for and that he wanted to share his success since he'd been so blessed this year. 5 of us agreed to go. We all bought our flights, took time off work, and were genuinely excited. When we arrived at the resort, everything seemed perfect until we tried to check in. The resort staff told us that there was no payment on record for the booking. Our friend quickly jumped in, claiming there must be some mistake and that he would handle it. He pulled us aside to the lobby lounge, and that's when his true colors came out. He announced that there was a slight change of plans and that we needed to split the cost of the stay. I immediately confronted him about his earlier promise that everything was paid for. One of my friends chimed in, explaining that they had spent most of their savings just on the flight. Rather than showing any remorse, he had the audacity to call us ungrateful and tried to downplay the cost, saying the rooms were only $400 per night each and that split between all of us, it would be nothing. Another friend quickly did the math and pointed out that it would cost $2,800 per person for the week, something none of us had agreed to. When we refused to pay, he completely lost it. He had somehow gotten all our luggage sent to one of the rooms during check-in, and he had the only key card. With a sneer, he told us we could sleep on the beach for all he cared if we wouldn't pay, and that we wouldn't get our luggage back until we did. We tried reasoning with him for hours. He kept ranting about how we were ruining his generous gesture and even called us ungrateful peasants who didn't deserve his friendship. The breaking point came when he created a group chat titled "Thank You Dinner Planning" and started making even more demands. He told us he expected to be treated to a nice restaurant befitting his status and that we would all need to pitch in for his meal too. That's when I'd had enough. I contacted the resort's management and explained the situation. Turns out he had made the booking with a fraudulent credit card, and the resort had been trying to contact him. The management called the local police. While he was at the pool, bragging to some tourists about his luxury timeshare, the police arrived. They arrested him for fraud, and the resort manager helped us retrieve our luggage from the room. He had been posting everything on social media, presenting himself as this generous friend treating everyone to a luxury vacation. When the truth came out, including his arrest, his carefully crafted image crumbled. His workplace found out he had told them he was attending a business conference and he lost his job. We ended up staying at a more modest hotel nearby and had a great time without him. Last I heard, he's facing fraud charges and had to move back in with his parents. His social media accounts are now private and he's been completely cut off from our friend group. His ex-workplace found out he had been embezzling money to maintain his fake luxury lifestyle. He is now facing serious criminal charges and will probably be spending his next vacation in a very different kind of all-inclusive facility.